Tonight we're working on the last piece that we have to create a mold for and lay up before we can start assembling all the pieces. The motor mount and the forward bulkhead we could go ahead and start putting together, but we've got one last piece for the transom, and I mentioned that in the previous video. The first thing I had to do was go ahead and core a hole in the middle of what will eventually be the keyhole, and take a pair of calipers and try to figure out what the thickness of the actual skin is. And it's about 15 thousandths, so it's a little bit over 1/8 of an inch, kind of varies. It's all slightly over 1/8 of an inch, so I did the same thing with the back skin, and it's somewhere around 1/8 of an inch. So the two of them together are probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 1/4 of an inch to 5/16. So what's important about that is we need to know the overall thickness of the transom, because we want to keep it between 2 and 2 1/4 inches. The original was about 2 1/16. We're going to shoot for somewhere around in there. We'll probably be a little bit proud. But then what we're going to do is actually build a collar to tie the outside skin and the inside skin together. And we'll go over the transom, take a look at that a little bit closer. As I mentioned before in the previous video, CCAS calls to build a plug the size of the keyhole or the shape of it, basically waxing it up, screwing it to the inner skin, pouring the CCAS, pulling it out, cutting the inner skin out, and then wrapping fiberglass between the outer skin and the inner skin to tie the two together. I don't want to do that because the gel coat's actually in pretty decent shape on the bottom of this hole, so I came up with a different method for this. We're going to go ahead and build a plug, but we're going to use the plug to build a collar that will actually tie the inner skin and outer skin together before we put the CCAS in. And it essentially will take the fiberglass and some chop strand mat and bond it to the outer skin and the inner skin. Again, the transom assembly is going to hold this together in compression, so I'm not too worried about it being a real high stress joint. And if we get a good glassing job, it shouldn't really matter anyhow if it's bonded to the inside or the outside. Granted, it would be stronger if it was bonded to the outside. But I don't think it's going to be significant in this case. So I'm going to go ahead and get busy, try to get this thing cut out and build another mold or another plug and lay up this last piece, and then we'll be ready to put everything together. I screwed two pieces of the MDF together. The top one is the piece that we traced the keyhole on, and then just another piece to make it 1 3/4 thick. Inch and a half thick. The nice thing about MDF is these are 3/4 inch pieces, which are true 3/4 of an inch, unlike plywood, which is slightly less. So we now have a true 1.5 inch, which combined with the thickness of our two skins should put us just a little bit over 2 inches, somewhere around probably 2 1/16, 2 1/8, which is kind of our target range that we're looking for. So cut this out, add a few things to it, and then go ahead and lay up the glass and create the collar piece. One of the other things I've got here is a piece of CCAS. They call these CCAS bars. They basically sell them for spacers, and we're going to be using this to put our inner skin on to space it with. I'll have to cut it down, but I think it'll cut fine on the table, so I was a little bit concerned because I was thinking this stuff was pretty hard last time I used it, but you can actually kind of dent this with your fingernail, so it should cut pretty nicely. So I guess I'll get the bandsaw out and get busy on this. I had a slight change of plans. I went to change the band on the bandsaw and figured out one of the tires actually had went bad. They're neoprene tires. Anyhow, it's broke, so I couldn't use the bandsaw. Naturally, I didn't have the right blade for the jigsaw, so first thing I did was a trip to Home Depot this morning. But once I did that, I took and cut out our plug, and then I made the top and the bottom that will screw on, and that'll give us a 2-inch lip all the way around once we lay this up. And I was trying to figure out where to put the Mickey Mouse ears, and I took the piece that I cut off, and I wish I had done this before I cut it off, but regardless, I found the centers of the bolts. Once I did that, I went over and measured from these bolts up to the center line of the steering arm, which is about 5 inches. So I found this point right here. The next thing we're going to do is make the Mickey Mouse ears. Then we'll tape everything up and fiberglass it.